What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, and in today's video, we're going to continue talking about some safe fantasy options. So in yesterday's video, I went through 4 of the safest running backs. Today, we're going to be talking about 4 of the safest wide receivers. Depending on your fantasy football strategy, you may be going after high risk, high reward players. Some of you guys may like safer options. I think the strategy could kind of vary, where you're drafting. So if you're picking a guy in like the second round, you may want him to be safe, whereas if you're going later round, high risk, high reward. So these wide receivers are kind of going to be sprinkled throughout, think maybe like round 2 through round 5, round 6-ish. So, a decent range of guys here, but 4 wide receivers. If you're enjoying the video, just do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. But let's just jump right into the first wide receiver, and it is going to be Mike Evans. Right now on Underdog, he's going as the wide receiver 7, a mid-second round pick. I think in more casual leagues, like I've been doing some mock drafts on like ESPN, Sleeper. In those leagues, he's going more at like the 2-3 turn. So a little bit discrepancy there in like paid leagues versus just kind of rough mock drafts. But either way, like second to early third round, that's kind of the range. And I mean, Mike Evans has just had some insane consistency throughout his career. Everyone knows about like the 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He hasn't had a year in the NFL where he did not go for 1,000 yards. But, just going for 1,000 yards isn't enough to warrant like a mid-tier wide receiver 1 ADP, right? Because like 1,000-yard seasons have become kind of common. I think it's arguably more impressive that he's just been on the field, to be able to get 1,000 yards every single season. But like 23 wide receivers went for over 1,000 yards last year. So it's not like this insane accomplishment. Obviously, it's very, very solid. But Mike Evans is a guy who can put up, high yardage seasons. In 2016, he had 1,321 receiving yards. In 2018, he had 1,524. So he can definitely get up there, in volume, but he also has some serious touchdown upside. He has had seasons with 12, 12, 13, and then 14 touchdowns. So he can, have those high volume seasons. He can also get into the end zone, is a serious touchdown threat. He's finished as high as the wide receiver 4 in points per game. Did that in 2019 with Jameis Winston. And, with Tom Brady, he's been a solid, like, back-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. So the last 2 years, 2020, he finished as the wide receiver 16, and then last year as the wide receiver 11. So that's solid, solid finishes, but he hasn't really shown you, like, an elite upside. He's shown you safety, but in those years, he was competing with guys like Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. He didn't need to be a volume guy on the Bucs, right? So he was providing safety without being like necessary to rely on him every single week. So he was safe, with all those guys in the lineup. Now you have Tom Brady back. AB and Gronk are gone. Godwin's coming off the ACL. We don't know if he's going to be 100%. We don't know, when he's even going to be back, when he's fully ready to go. So we already knew Mike Evans was safe, but now I think he has some serious elite upside this season. He has the opportunity to combine that volume with insane touchdown numbers, and he's only missed 7 games in the last 8 seasons. So in my opinion, Mike Evans screams safety, but he also has some serious upside this year. So he really checks every box you'd be looking for in like a fantasy football wide receiver 1. Now moving on to the next wide receiver, I feel like, in the intro, if I was talking about safest wide receivers, if one guy came to mind, it would probably be Keenan Allen, and this is who I'm going to talk about here. So he's being drafted as the wide receiver 12, like an early third round pick. This kind of seems like where Keenan Allen always falls in fantasy drafts, but I kind of refer to him as like the Nick Chubb of wide receivers. We know exactly what we're getting out of Nick Chubb. We know the same thing for Keenan Allen. These are going to be Keenan Allen's fantasy football finishes over the last 5 years. So 2017, he was the wide receiver 4 in points per game, 17.8 PPR points per game. 2018, the wide receiver 18 at 16.3. That wide receiver 18 number is kind of crazy. That 2018 season had some monster wide receiver seasons. Basically any other year, that 16.3 is like a locked in wide receiver 1, at worst like a high end wide receiver 2. So that was a crazy year. Still put up 16.3 PPR points per game. So the wide receiver 18 really doesn't tell the full story there. Then 2019, wide receiver 8, also 16.3. 2020, wide receiver 6, 17.5 points per game. Then 2021, the wide receiver 12, 16.1. So just listen to those points per game. 17.8, 16.3, 16.3, 17.5, and 16.1. The man is just locked into that zone. I feel like that really says all we need to know about his safety. He's just so consistent, does it year after year. We also know he's just going to be a target funnel. These are his target numbers over the last 5 seasons. Basically just been a target hog every single season. So 159, 136, 149, 147, and then 157. He's only missed 3 games in the last 5 seasons. He's on an elite offense with an elite quarterback, and is just set up for another very, very safe season. It's kind of surprising to see a guy get drafted at like wide receiver 12 when I feel like his floor is like a high-end wide receiver 2. Like, barring an injury, I don't see Keenan Allen finishing below like the wide receiver 15 mark. He's not someone who relies on touchdowns. He's locked in for that volume. So Keenan Allen is very, very safe. The next wide receiver is someone who just kind of had a shakeup in their offense, and that is going to be DJ Moore. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 17, a late 3rd round pick. I'm guessing that, ADP is going to start to rise. Obviously, the new Baker Mayfield news. But I want to talk about DJ Moore's pass production a little bit, because basically his entire career, he's been like a safe floor play. DJ Moore is produced as like a fringe wide receiver 2, having no touchdown upside in brutal offenses with just garbage cans at quarterback. So these are kind of his stat lines over the last 3 seasons. 2019, he averaged 15.4 points per game, caught 87 passes, 1,175 receiving yards, only 4 touchdowns. Then in 2020, 14.1 points per game, 66 receptions, 1,193 receiving yards, and then 4 touchdowns once again. Then 2021, 14 points per game, 93 receptions, 1,157 receiving yards, and I feel like you can guess it, 4 touchdowns. He's just been locked into that 4 touchdown number, really just kind of preventing that upside there, because he's had years where he's been a big play guy. You saw in 2020, the 66 receptions for 1,193 receiving yards. Like, he was putting together some big time plays. He's been the volume guy like we saw in 2019 and 2021. Still has just not been able to find the end zone. It does seem like Baker Mayfield is going to be the best quarterback he's played with in his NFL career. That's obviously not ideal for him, as an NFL player, because I don't know if Baker is like the long-term answer there. I do think he's going to have more upside than he's had in years past. I'm just worried that his price is going to be so inflated, because DJ Moore is one of these guys, like same with Terry McLaurin, we really want to see them play with like a stud quarterback, and so people are so willing to like jump them up in the rankings. So even though DJ Moore is very safe, I'm worried that his ADP is going to get pushed up to like wide receiver 14, wide receiver 13. Like, I feel like he may go that high. And in my opinion, like, Baker doesn't move the needle enough to, jump DJ Moore up there. Because at that price, if you're picking him mid 3rd round, early 3rd round, you're not buying a player there for safety. Like, Keenan Allen is safe. You're picking him there. But I think he also has some upside. I'm just not sure if DJ Moore has that same thing. But he definitely is safe. But that safety just becomes, less and less important. Not less important, but, it can't be the only thing you're drafting someone for, the earlier you are going in drafts. So now let's move over to the 4th and final safe wide receiver, and it is going to be Brandin Cooks, being drafted as the wide receiver 26, a mid 5th round pick. And if we exclude Brandin Cooks' really one down year of his career, it was 2019. In his 7 other seasons, he has finished between 13.8 and 15.8 PPR points per game, just locked into that range, give or take a point or two, 13.8 and 15.8. Cooks has produced as like a fringe wide receiver 2 in a variety of different situations. He really has been in like every situation you can imagine. He's been in good offenses with good quarterbacks. Look at his year with the Patriots. He played with Drew Brees early in his career. He's been in good offenses with mediocre quarterbacks. The Rams come to mind there. He's been in bad offenses with good quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson with the Texans. And then he's been on bad offenses with bad quarterbacks last year with the Texans. So he has done it all, but he always just finishes in that similar range. This is a very similar situation to last year. Not a stacked offense. They're probably going to be bad. It looks like Davis Mills is going to be the quarterback. Limited target competition. We saw Cooks finish as the wide receiver 22 last season. It seems like once again he's going to have a decent opportunity to be a solid floor play, but it does kind of seem like people have caught on. Like, it seems like every single year before this season, like, Cooks was always a value. He's going 7th, 8th round. No one really knows why, because he seems like a lock to be a fringe wide receiver 2. This year, that price is up there, wide receiver 26. So while he is safe, I don't really know if he has the upside to warrant that pick. But if you're picking mid-fifth round, you just want a safe wide receiver on your roster, Brandin Cooks could definitely be that guy. So those are going to be the 4 wide receivers: Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Brandin Cooks. Let me know what you guys think about these players down below in the comment section. I'll make sure to respond back to every person. But thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next one.